Welcome to this course where you'll take your first step in web application development. We'll start with HTML technology, which is a markup language used for structuring and organizing the content of websites. Here you'll learn how to manage containers, tags, images, videos, audios, lists, tables, forms with different elements. These include inputs, buttons, selectors, hyperlinks, and other components. Then we'll move on to the next essential technology for web development, which is CSS. It's responsible for the design, presentation, and styles of a website. During this section, you'll learn the following concepts. First, selecting HTML elements, based on an identifier or a class, to inject graphical components into certain elements. Next, you'll learn about text properties, where you'll discover how to change the font, size, weight, style, color, alignment, decoration, and other properties of text. Then, you'll dive into box manipulation by altering their dimensions in height and width, handling padding and margins, implementing borders, and positioning containers, among other properties. After that, you'll explore background and color properties, enabling you to add background colors, gradients, images, and modify the arrangement of these images. You'll also learn the flexbox technique, which simplifies element positioning. Additionally, you'll delve into implementing various animations, transitions, and transformations of elements to enhance the graphical interface. Finally, you'll learn about responsive design to adapt the websites you create to different screen sizes. In the next section, you'll design and develop our first project of the course, which will be a landing page. You'll create a navigation bar, main sections, and a footer. Then, you'll adapt this design or website to different screen sizes. The next technology you'll learn is JavaScript, which is a programming language in itself. That's crucial for web application development, as it handles the logic and interactivity of a site. Here, we'll cover only the fundamentals of this technology. We'll start by creating and managing variables, logical operators, and control structures, also known as conditionals. You'll also learn about loops such as for, while, do while, for each, etc. We'll cover common functions, anonymous functions, arrow functions, and more. You'll learn about creating and managing objects, arrays, as well as error handling with the implementation of try-catch blocks. Finally, another crucial topic when it comes to programming languages is event handling. These are the most important topics in JS. There are various other topics within the section. After that, we'll move on to creating our second project, which is implementing a CRUD using the previously covered technologies. HTML for the structure and organization of the elements inside, CSS for designing the components, and finally JS for CRUD interaction, which involves creating a user, searching for a user, updating a user, and deleting a user. The reference to CRUD is related to the initial practices when we start learning a programming language, for example, like JS, as CRUD represents the standard practices for developing applications in a programming language we're entering, involving the creation, reading, updating, and deleting of records. The next technology we'll learn is jQuery, which is a JavaScript library. It simplifies component manipulation and event handling on a website. In simple terms, it simplifies element manipulation. By elements, I mean inputs, buttons, containers, etc., whether it's for implementing styles or interactivity with JS. The simplicity lies in the syntax of this library. What might take 5 or 6 lines in pure JS could be done in 1 or 2 lines with jQuery. After completing this section, we'll implement our third project. In this project, we'll create 2 projects. The first project will involve designing and developing an admin panel dashboard. The second project will be designing and developing a travel landing page. The next technology we'll encounter in this course is Bootstrap, which will be the first framework we'll learn to become web developers. About Bootstrap, a front-end tool, it facilitates the development of graphical interfaces, as it provides various graphical components in its documentation for us to use and customize according to our needs. I'll mention some of these components. First, we have the alerts, for displaying notifications after actions. For example, like in CRUD operations like creating, editing, or deleting a user. Batches for labeling data. Cards for grouping content. Carousels for enhancing user experience in graphical interfaces. Drop-downs for drop-down list options. Modals for pop-up windows. Navbars for navigation bar designs. Placeholder and spinners for content preloaders. And the last one I'll mention, tooltips for text boxes. In addition to graphical components, we'll also learn bootstrap techniques. One of them is the grid system. This system allows us to organize and distribute the layout of a web page using rows and columns. After this section, we'll move on to the fourth project, which is creating a template for a blog website. Then, in the next section, we'll learn how to handle external JavaScript libraries, which are tools that allows us programmers to work at a higher level of abstraction, reducing the amount of code we write in our applications, thus saving development time. Some of these libraries we'll get to know are Swiper, for carousel management with different effects and animations. The next library is called Moment, which facilitates date handling in different formats. Another library is called Light Gallery, which allows us to create image and video presentations. Finally, there's the library called Glyph, which allows us to format different inputs in the form. Next, we'll be learning not a technology in itself, but a tool commonly used by programmers. This tool is called Git, which allows us to manage the versioning of the applications we're working on. It also enables collaboration with other programmers, maintains a history of changes and modifications in our projects, and provides distribution and backup of projects stored in repositories, among other advantages offered by GitHub. Finally, we move on to the next section, in which we develop our final project, which is the template for an online store. During the design and development of this project, we apply the knowledge we've learned throughout the previous sections. Additionally, we work in a very organized manner regarding our code, adding comments and indenting the code. And finally, we also provide the code worked on in each video. This is done so that you can compare your code with the code I've written. Finally, in the last section, we'll learn how to implement hosting and domain to deploy the project we created in the previous section. The first thing we'll learn here is how to choose a good provider for acquiring our services, based on different characteristics they must have. Then, we'll also learn how to choose a good hosting plan, evaluating its features, prices, and any discounts available. On this last point, I'll also show you how to acquire hosting for free. Finally, we'll learn how to manage hosting and how to deploy a production project in two ways, through the cPanel and via an FTP connection.